Hamas, the militant Palestinian group, has been designated a terrorist organization by Western governments and some others and has been locked out of the traditional financial system. But in January 2019, the military wing of Hamas, known as the Al-Qassam Brigades, began a campaign to crowdfund through Bitcoin. The Al-Qassam Brigades provided a Bitcoin address to which donors could send funds and posted infographics and tutorials about Bitcoin on social media. Other terrorist organizations are also supposed to raise funds through different types of cryptocurrencies. Legitimate businesses helps the terrorists to get the funds without anyone's help and without getting the attention of security forces. According to Indonesian police, the JI leader, Pero Wijayanto, conducted the plantation business while recruiting more members to the group. The plantation business is huge in Indonesia, which is the world's biggest exporter of palm oil. The plantations are also usually in remote locations, which makes them ideal for shelters and military training. Owning a plantation provides an opportunity to purchase large amounts of chemical products, such as fertilizer, which can be used to craft bombs. JI Network also set up book publishing companies in Central Java. One of the primary ways that terrorist groups use the internet to raise funds is through criminal activity. Yunis Solai, a young British man better known by his internet code name Irhabi007, who had developed close ties to the Al-Qaeda in Iraq, began acquiring stolen credit card numbers on the web, purchasing them through various online forums. By the time Solai and his partner Aldua were arrested, Aldua had accumulated 37,000 stolen credit card numbers on his computer, which they had used to make more than $3.5 million in charges. Solai laundered money through a number of online gambling sites, using the stolen credit card information. Any winnings were cashed in and transferred electronically to bank accounts specifically established for this purpose. In this way, the money would now appear legitimately won, and thus successfully laundered. Charities and non-governmental organizations, NGO, remain a major problem in the terrorist financing arena, and their activities on the internet are no exception to this troublesome trend. It is a significant challenge for law enforcement to effectively monitor funds distributed in conflict zones, which can be easily diverted away from the intended cause. Another challenge for governments is that banned or exposed charities tied to terrorism can shut down one day and reopen the next under a new name, a tactic often used by terrorist organizations. Al-Qaeda-linked NGO, the Al-Haramain Islamic Foundation that was designated by the U.S. Treasury Department in November 2008 for its ties to Al-Qaeda, had a website that encouraged donations. Various states have supported terrorist groups over the years. Iran and Pakistan is seen as the leader of state-sponsored terrorism. Iran went as far as helping to create the terrorist group Hezbollah in Lebanon in the early 1980s in order to expand its influence in the region. Pakistan has been described as a safe haven for terrorists. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif suggested that the Pakistani government played a role in the 2008 Mumbai attack. A 2012 NATO report explained that the support and training from Pakistan's inter-services intelligence was critical to the survival and revival of the Taliban after 2001, just as it was critical to its conquest of Afghanistan in the 1990s. Similarly, in the early 2000s, Saudi Arabia became a source of private funding for the Taliban and provided hundreds of millions of dollars to Hamas. There are several ways terrorist organizations collect money in areas they control. ISIS taxes a variety of activities, including using roads, smoking, and attending school. The Taliban taxes electricity bills, salaries, marriage ceremonies, and harvests. Taxing is extremely profitable. In 2015, ISIS made about $360 million from taxation and extortion alone. At one point, Al-Shabaab was generating almost $100 million a year solely from taxes, fees, and extortion. Some groups even tax people for not joining. As such, These groups have managed to expand their membership as well as their funding. Many terrorist groups also charge protection taxes. In its most extreme, governors of some Nigerian states have purportedly paid Boko Haram monthly fees to avoid attacks. In 2015, ISIS brought in approximately $500 million from oil and gas. ISIS took control of oil wells and refineries within Iraq and Syria. As international sanctions prevent ISIS from illegally selling the oil, most of it is sold illegally in Turkey, where it is extremely expensive. Groups also use the drug trade to finance their activities. Estimates suggest that in 2014 and 2015, ISIS made up to $1 billion annually from Afghan heroin trafficked through its territory. The Taliban has also gained much of its funding from trafficking heroin and producing hashish. In 2017, the U.S. military estimated that 60%, about $200 million, of the Taliban's budget came from drug trafficking. In recent years, the number of kidnappings for ransom has increased globally, especially for Islamist terrorist groups in the Sahel. Kidnapping has become a lucrative source of income. Boko Haram has employed kidnapping for ransom against school children, tourists, and wealthy individuals. Boko Haram's ransoms range between $10 and $3 million. ISIS received millions more from kidnapping Western journalists and tourists. Although some states refuse to negotiate with terrorists, others, including France, Italy, and Spain, will pay. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb is alleged to have collected a total of $89 million in kidnappings for ransom revenues between 2003 and 2012.